Hello, this is Dave again from cheapwinefinder.com, and today we got another companion podcast for a wine we put on the cheapwinefinder.com website. And actually, normally we do reviews, we do write-ups. We're more fans than critics, but this time I think I wrote a love letter. This is one of my favorite Chardonnays in the whole world, has been for a while. This is the Chardonnay that I measure all other Chardonnays by. I mean, I get to go to these tastings and I get to drink all sorts of expensive wines. And I've had very few that I actually liked better. I mean, there's a lot that I like, but you know, where you go where, oh, that's obviously a better one. Doesn't happen often. And, oh, I should tell you what I'm drinking here. And it is the Wente Morning Fog Chardonnay, 2017. Wente is in Livermore Valley, California, which is on the other side of the San Francisco Bay, a little bit in from there, but it's just across from San Francisco. It's still Central Coast up that way. You go a little bit farther north, not too far north, and you're into Sonoma and Napa and all that, but you're still in the Central Coast over here, and Wente's been there since, I think, 1883. They're the fifth generations making wine now, and their claim to fame, if you want to read about American winemaking, look up Wente and clones. Like roses, there's not just one rose, there's double roses, different colors, different sizes. Grapes are the same way. And Wente, along with some others, but Wente in a very large way, perfected many of the clones of the grapes you get nowadays. I mean, they have more than one Chardonnay clone, but 80% of the grapes grown in California are a Wente clone. They kind of own Chardonnay in California. I've talked to a winemaker. There's a Bordeaux release party every January, February. And I was talking to one of the winemakers, and he says he uses the Wente Cabernet Sauvignon clone because it's hardier, it's disease resistant. He said it originally came from Bordeaux anyway. They just made it better and brought it back. I'd be foolish not to use it. So they're legit in the vineyard. And plus they've been around, like I said, for 1883, I think it is. And they didn't shut down during Prohibition. They've been continuously operating ever since 1883. There is, in France, there's this thing, terroir. I mean, it's the biggest deal ever. It's like people have owned this land for decades, maybe even centuries, and they've worked this land and they know the grapes in that land, and they know the soil and they know the climate, and they know different years, different variations of climate every year. And the winemaking tradition has been handed down through the centuries. And you're tasting terroir. You're knowing what this family and these grapes and these winemakers' knowledge all come together in your glass. It's terroir. And Wente has that. I mean, for like 135 years, they created the grapes. They've had this Livermore Valley Vineyards since way back when. And, way back in the day, Livermore was bigger wine-wise than Napa and Sonoma. I mean, they predate all that. So if you're looking for, terroir, I mean, wine geeks get all excited about terroir, and for good reason. I mean, it's not the perfect thing. I mean, you can have bad terroir or you have idiots in your family every third generation and screw the whole thing up. But terroir is a good thing, and Wente's got it in spades. And which brings us to the Chardonnay. Oh, they were the first winery in California to put Chardonnay on a label back in the 30s. I mean, there was no Chardonnay until Wente wrote Chardonnay on their label. I mean, there was, actually there wasn't, because I don't think they called Burgundy, they called it something else. They don't call it Chardonnay. And I'm going to have a sip because I've been talking about it like a lot, and I already wrote about it. And this is a good vintage. James Suckling, he's like the new top guy. Robert Parker's kind of retired now, and Suckling's kind of taken over. So he's, when it comes to wine points, he's the guy. He gave this vintage 91 points. This is a $12, $13 wine, 91 points, and it's legit. So I'm going to take a sip. Yeah, I mean, for me, for my personal preferences, when it comes to Chardonnay, this checks off all the boxes. I mean, I don't expect anybody else, well, I mean, I expect many people but, the whole thing about wine isn't what someone tells you to like, it's what you figure out you like. You don't need to know winemaking techniques. You don't need to know, what the hillside, I mean, it's all good things to know. The only thing you really need to know is what you like, and how to find them in the stores. Once you got that, you pretty much, everything else is gravy at that point. So this is, for me, this is my Chardonnay. This is one I like. It's not the only one I like. It's not as if I turn the other ones down, but this is the one, is it better than Morning Fog? I mean, they actually have a Rivas Ranch, I think it's called. I hope I got that one right. That's, it's more like it's a one vineyard wine. Yeah, I like this several vineyard one. I mean, actually, generally speaking, I kind of like the blends better. I like the more singular ones, because the more singular ones, sometimes a good year could be better, but the blends are good every year. So keep that in mind too, because sometimes the single vineyard ones cost more. And if it's worth it that year, then by all means give it a go. But the blends are always good. So remember that. Even though this is a blend of Chardonnay, it's actually a blend of different clones. And each little section they pick separately and all that. Oh, and I'll tell you a little about the winemaking. If you don't like oaked Chardonnay, well, this isn't really. 50% of the oak was fermented in American oak barrels that are neutral. Neutral means that for all intents and purposes, and doesn't mean completely, it's not giving out any more oak flavoring. Usually it's like 4 or 5, maybe the 5th time it's used, and sometimes these things are used 100 times and they really give nothing out. But and then the other 50% is in stainless steel tanks. So they do mention vanilla, so I guess these do give a little bit out. So 50% of it is fermented in an American oak barrel. 50% of it's in a stainless steel tank. And then they age it for, I think, 5 or 6 months. And the American oak barrel one, they do it on lees. On lees is the dead yeast stays in the barrel, along with, there's little residues of the grape still in there. They filter it, but not all of it comes out. And the yeast is still there after fermentation, and leave it in there. And it's called battentage, I think, in French. And all that means is every so often they stir it. So I think this is 5 or 6 months on aging, and they stirred it 5 or 6 times, once a month. Then you get the stainless steel part, and half of that was on lees, and the other half, they took the lees out. So that's kind of clean and crisp. There's not a lot of other things. That kind of part of it is aged without a lot going on. It's just clean, crisp, the way the wine always was. And so you got 3 different type of grapes going on here, plus there's different clones. So this is kind of a complicated wine for not having a ton of oak. But there is some vanilla, there is some butter, there is some things going on, but it's not over the top in any type of way. And I'm going to take another sip because, I talk about these things and I get myself, thirsty. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's got good mouthfeel. I mean, it's bright. It's got good acidity. I mean, it just engaged your mouth. There's a ton of flavors going on. The acidity allows wine for flavors to unfold. If you don't have enough acidity, it gets kind of flabby. Everything comes up right up the front and then just dies out. You need that acidity to give it the structure to allow it to have all these different tastes going on. And it's got it here. Like I said, it's, I think, $12.99, $13, $12 Chardonnay. Yeah, and this is, for me, like I said before, this is the one. This is my baseline Chardonnay. Like, I do like different Chardonnays, but this one is got the elegance, it's got the detail, it's got the depth. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's got a winery is legit and has been around forever, and it kind of invented California Chardonnay on top of it and been doing it for over 130 years. It's good enough that even France is aware of them and looking for their vines that they've done clones with. Yeah, I mean, this is a good wine. Sometimes in Livermore, Valley, it's not your Napa, it's not your Sonoma. You don't really, maybe it ain't the first name on your list, but maybe it should be. Or, so look it up, look for it. It's good. I like it. It would be great on Thanksgiving table, great on Christmas. It'd be great on a Tuesday night. And that's it for me. We'll have something else. Oh, I have some crazy Beaujolais turkey wine coming up the next one. It's an interesting one. I got that going too. Then I got a couple of things going on before Thanksgiving. And then we start the party time with the bubbles and everything else for the holidays and Christmas and New Year's. So keep it cheap and keep it good, because here we got a $12, $13 wine that gets 91 points and is one of my favorite wines in the whole world. So adios to you and me, and keep it cheap. And this is Dave, over and out. Goodbye.